care, and I put so much energy into success of my students that that's like I get a lot of energy from it, and I just love to see them progressing. I mean, the results that they are getting already after 2 weeks, and then after a month, it's just seeing the progress in such a short time while they have been struggling for years. And just like with this habit tracker, you were saying it's not just trading, it affects also your private life.
Yeah.
Failure in trading affects your private life, affects your health, affects everything else. And I I really love to see the fact that when I work with people, that their life is literally changing, not just their trading, but their whole life is changing. And if you look
Yeah.
at the
And
reviews or the interviews I did with my students, it's just, you know, I sometimes I get like my heart is really warming up when I hear that. And
I
that's
know that
why I do
feeling,
that.
and
That's
I've
what
been
I do
there
it
when we
for.
would do our mentor state, sessions in at Prosper. It would be more of a, like you're saying, a small group, 4 to 6 people on a Saturday,
Right.
and we'd go over stuff in a more detailed way. And you really did. And when you saw the light go off in people's heads, and you can see it
Yeah.
because there's that pep in the step. Like I don't look at this as something I have to do. It's something that I look forward to doing now. And that, I think,
Right.
is the change that's important for us to make. And it's in trading. It's the same way when I was teaching technical analysis to somebody. If it's hard for them to separate their past failures from what's in front of
Right.
them, and they use it as almost a crutch to why they can't. This won't work for them. I used to call it the
Exactly.
yabutts. You get yabutt to death.
Yes.
Well, so did this do
Totally.
this? Did it do that? And did the price follow yabut? Stop yabutting me to
Yeah.
death. It's
Yeah.
sometimes patterns matter, and like in this, habits matter. Would be the way that I would put it. I think there's a shirt that you need for the class. Habits matter. And I will take ten
Habits
percent of the
matter.
proceeds on those. And once
Absolutely.
again, I do want to point out there's two QR codes here on your screen. The one to the right of Agnieszka is the one you want to get in pre-enrolled for her class starting in January. Again, this class of 12 people, very detailed coaching for 3 months. And then underneath her is a QR code that is for her free program, that is a 2 week program that gives you a daily email that starts to help you. And I want to talk a little bit next about that because I'm on that section, and it's one that catches me a lot. And we've talked a little bit about this already, so you probably know where I'm going. Is negativity. How do we stop that self doubt in our heads? What are some tips you can give the viewers on that?
Yeah. And it's actually really interesting because you were just talking about the yeah buts, right? And that's where that negativity comes from, is from not just a person is negative, but it's a pattern. It's a
Right.
pattern of constantly looking at something that you don't want and trying to avoid it. And this is just because we as human beings, we are used to scanning the environment. Our nervous system scans the environment trying to avoid danger. So we are more prone to look at the things that we don't want and then putting all our efforts into avoiding it. If you ask someone, what is it you want to achieve with trading? Most people will tell you, because I don't want to work for the boss, right? Or I don't want this, or I don't want that. I don't want to struggle. I don't want to have problems with money. And if you do ask them, but what do you want? It's very difficult for them to actually switch their way of thinking to start looking at what they want and go into that positive. And
Right.
it's a matter of switching your focus. That's the biggest part of the mental work.
Sure.
It's not doing, it's switching your focus from things you're trying to avoid towards the things that you actually want to achieve. And it sounds very easy, but it's not, because our parents are telling us all the things we don't want.
Right.
And the funny thing, or not really funny, the sad thing is that we always get what we want. So if you
Yeah.
constantly think about what you don't want, you will get what you don't want.
Right. You're gonna self manifest it either way. Why not do it to the
Exactly.
positive instead of to the negative?
And I like to give that example, like our brain does not really compute the word no or the negation. If I say there is no pink elephant behind me, what is it that you're thinking about now?
Pink elephant. Where
I
is
said
it?
there is no one.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for a pink elephant.
Right. So that's the same with the like, I don't want this and I don't want that. And we are very creative in expressing what we want. So we would say, I want um, I want to be independent. The whole word independent sounds like something positive, but it suggests dependency that you're trying to get rid of.
Right.
So that internal dialogue, changing that internal dialogue, and we have touched upon that before, that's really the part of the mindset skills that you as a trader and you as a person always have to develop and keep working on to develop new thinking patterns that will help you to switch from that focus, from that what is it that you don't want towards what is it that you do want. Instead of I don't want to lose, which is
I
the
want to
focus of
win.
most traders, is I want to win on this trade, or I want to follow my plan. I want to have a good trading day. Like, just keep asking yourself, what is it that you want? And the moment that you hear yourself focusing on the past, that means that's probably what you're going to get again. And that's how patterns repeat. People's
Right.
life don't
Makes
change because they
sense.
keep repeating what they already have.
Yeah, I mean, you almost you it's a self-fulfilling cycle that you start to get yourself
Totally,
into.
totally.
Instead of having positive reinforcement, your negative reinforcement within yourself just keeps on bringing that
Yeah.
attitude down.
Yeah. And look how often, like everyone has its own story about themselves. And if in trading things are not going the way you like it, you are making a story about yourself as a trader. Maybe a trader who has been failing for 10 years and nothing is going to work. I have tried everything and nothing worked. I've had 10 coaches and they couldn't help me. I am a loser, right? I am a failure. And that story you take with you, and if you're taking a loss, most likely this is just for you the evidence to say, you see, the story I have about myself is correct.
It's
And
true,
you
yeah.
keep building that story and making it stronger. So switching that focus is really about making a new story about yourself. So next time when you lose, the worst thing you can do is to tell yourself, you see, I knew it. You see, that I'm back to where I was, even, especially like when things are already progressing, and then there is this one day, all right, you blow up your funded account or you
Yeah.
took a big loss. No, you are not back to the old one, and stop telling it to yourself. You have been progressing, so you are in a completely different place. But by saying it to yourself, now I'm back to where I was, now you are activating this old pattern that's going to keep you stuck.
Right. You
I
just
hope I answered your question.
you did, definitely. You definitely did there. Um, yeah, I mean, and it's something that I think it's hard to do that. Do you have any techniques? Do you change how you approach a day, or what you
Yeah,
do, to kind of get that mind to break that? I guess my next question would be, following up, is how do I break that cycle if I do see that cycle start to pop up in my thinking?
yeah, yeah. So there are things that we are using in our language because it's really the language, the way we talk to ourselves to start with. There are several phrases like, for example, always and never,
Right.
generalizations, right? Black and white thinking. This is what's called distorted thinking patterns. If you are thinking either I'm a winner or a loser, there's nothing in between. Now you're
Right.
really limiting yourself because there's a lot in between, just like there is if the trade is short or if the trade is not short, it must be long. No, maybe there's no trade.
Sure.
Um, things like when we say to ourselves, I should have done no better. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this. like constantly shoot and creating that guilt feeling keeps you stuck because you are stating the obvious. Obviously, if you would have known that you're going to lose, you wouldn't do that, right?
Right.
So so kind of paying attention to your language. But I think the where you can really start is at the beginning of your day when you are waking up and your head is sort of reset. Um, that's where you really start creating positive momentum for the day. And positive momentum, like, it doesn't necessarily means that you're like, oh, I'm always happy no matter what's happening to me, like this, you just drank Kool-Aid. But what it means is that you focus on what you want. So you focus on what you want and what appreciate and have gratitude to the things that you already have, right? Every trading day that you can trade is another opportunity for you to learn, to make step forward. Give yourself some grace to start with. Give gratitude for the fact that you are actually attempting something that's very challenging,
Right.
and that you are doing it. And every day you're putting your efforts in, and try to see those positive sides of in everything, because everything has two sides. So maybe just kind of a one umbrella thing to take with you is try to think that anything that happens during the day in your life is happening for you and not to you. And this will
That's a great way to
completely
put it.
change
That is
your
a great
attitude.
way to put that.
So
That
that
will
will
make a big
completely
difference.
change your attitude to everything that is happening. Will help you learn from from what the feedback the market is giving you, and it will help you focus on those things that are there to help you move forward.
That's great advice right there. That is, and it's harder to do than you say sometimes. Not that you say, but when you think about it, sometimes things seem so simple, but they are hard to, especially when you get in that cycle of fear and negativity that some traders get into at different times. Getting out of
Right.
there, and that's why I go back to that good habits. If you start to have these good habits and you do these things,
Yes.
I think it helps from getting into those on both sides of it, being too euphoric.
Totally.
If I still follow this, and I have on there that when I finish my 12:30 with Agnieszka, I usually take the pup out. If I go and do that, either if it's going to give me that break that I know that I need
Right.
around 12:30 personally, that I had to step away, because again, I found that at certain times of the day I was over trading. So that's where I've plugged in some of those habits that you have on your sheet to try to break
Right.
myself out of these, and I think that's a big part of it, is that a lot of us are good at knowing that we're making mistakes, but we're not so great at actually doing something, being proactive to stop those
Right.
mistakes, whether it's
Yeah.
having the wrong risk reward on the technical analysis side, or in this case, just not getting your head in the right place, your mindset in the right place before, or how you reset it, and don't allow that spiral that I think I'm gonna
Right.
refer to now. That
And
you
that's why
can't.
I think accountability is such a big part of your growth, to have someone who you always can reach out to, especially at the moment when you're like, okay, I know that this is what I should be doing, but all my emotions and like my head is about to explode. Help. Really to
Yeah,
that
no, that
point.
you're right. There's so many traders, and you bring up a good portion of traders nowadays that we haven't seen in the past, that have this added pressure of traded funding, where they're
Right.
using other people's money. But that sounds simple, right? But what it also is you have to hit certain markers to either A, qualify, or
Right.
B, stay qualified within these programs. And I do think a lot of traders, and I'd have to ask, because it sounds like you have a few of these in your class, in your
Right.
client list, is
Yes.
that the pressure is almost bigger. I found. I told you that Prosper does that. I wasn't the hugest fan, because what I saw is the amount of pressure that you're under to hit levels to qualify to get there, and then the way that it's set up and what you are allowed or not allowed to do on a daily basis in the way that you can trade really put a lot of what I would think is undue pressure on ourselves and on traders. Are you finding that that's part of?
Yeah, on one hand, it kind of keeps you, accountable to the rules because
Right.
there are rules that you have to stick to. So in that way, it's good, but there is a lot of rules.
Yeah, and it really is. And what it does is it. I think that where for me, it forces people to trade when trades aren't in front of them.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
big on,
and
sometimes if you're not seeing the charts and you're not seeing stuff like I was showing you before we came in on these pumpers right now, I just have a feel, I see this same picture that's
yeah,
painting in my head. And when I see it, I'm like, okay, if it does, not that all of them make it. In other words, if I look at 20 pumpers every morning before we start, on Quasar Markets Live, only one of them are pumping. The
right,
setup's there, but it has to follow through the setup to get to the point where I'd actually pull a trigger. They don't get to that point, and that's, part of it. And
yeah,
you feel like traded funders a lot of times feel like they got to pull that trigger 10 times out of 20, not maybe once out of 20. And that adds a lot of pressure and a lot into it. It's not your money, but it is your money because they're counting on that money to be in their account to provide them an income to live.
yeah. What I find is that the pressure of blowing up account is so when you have your own account and not trading your own money, I see the traders blow up their account much less than blowing up an account, the funded account, because it's just a little fee. How they say it's just it's just a
Yeah,
small fee, but
right.
like it adds up. But the emotional pressure and stress of I blew up an account again is adding to that failing
Right. And I've
feeling.
noticed that people that are traded funders tend to be serial traded funders. They don't do it on one platform. They're trying to qualify on 10 platforms or 20 platforms to do it at a time. And that just, again, adds so much pressure to people. And again, because of that, if they crash out on three or four, they got to be careful because you could get into that mentality, get that cycle going, get the spiral down. Next thing you know, you've crashed out of all of them. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's one that I don't know if I like it or not yet. I don't want to boo-hoo on a whole industry, so to speak. And I know that certain
Yeah.
people are very successful, and I have a couple of friends who do amazingly well, but they would do amazingly well with their own money. It's one of those. It's the catch-22 of it all.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Um,
an opportunity for people who don't have, money to fund their own accounts to day trade. So I think that's great. The fact that they
that's
are,
right. I'm with you there. Is that I think that's where
yeah,
it is. Is a lot of people, myself, I was in that spot for a long time where I didn't have $25,000 in an account that made me eligible to day trade, and this gave me that
right.
opportunity. Now I'm one of those
Yeah, and in
crazy
fact, you
people that
have to have more because otherwise you have the constant pressure of, oh, I cannot go
right. If
under
you have exactly
25. So,
25, you fall under margin call comes, right, exactly. Um,
yeah,
I found my
so,
way around that was I just had 27 accounts. So I could make 3 day trades in each of them. And if you think I'm kidding,
yeah,
I'm not. I literally had like 10 different accounts that I was using and split my money that way amongst TD and Robinhood and Webull and
okay.
Trade of Aid and you name it, I had an account there, and did it sort of that way, to avoid, because it's a tough one because that's
That's a lot of
I think the
management.
day trading rules are a joke. I have as much knowledge, if not more, than 90% of traders out there, but for a long time I was unable to qualify as a day trader. And I'm still not an accredited
Yeah.
investor. I'm close. I'm almost there with that one. But again, it's sometimes the rules are set against us as only the rich get richer. I saw something this week that was sort of disappointing. It was talking about how we're actually in one of the better spots as an economy and as our earning power versus what our fixed costs sort of are in food and that. While we think
Hmm.
inflation's really high, what we see is that eggs are now 3.50. We don't think about, well, maybe I was making $15 an hour when they were at $3 and now I'm making $25 an hour and they're at 3.50 and that inflation rate isn't that
Right.
bad. That we don't look at that. But one of the problems was right now only 44% of Americans actually hold investments. And that's anything including their house and has including having your own mortgage where you live. And that was a little disappointing because it shows how that wealth disparity is going to continue to
Right.
grow here over the next decade, because this is we're going to see. I think labor is in the driver's seat right now. If you look at the labor unions, and they drive minimum wages and they drive wages up, because as labor, as those wages move, then the rest of the market tends to follow. And that's why I hope people will take advantage of your free tips to start off on and then get into your program, because I think there's a lot of people looking to break out of that, to get some generational wealth for their families, to not be, part of that 5%, 66% that
Right.
don't have investments. And that
Yeah.
includes 401ks in there. So it was really even more eye opening to me to see
Hmm.
that disparity between there. There are more day traders that I'm seeing as I talk to people. I have more younger friends in that generation younger than I that are day traders but don't do 401k and don't have sort of a long term
Plan.
portfolio type of thing set up. So hopefully we can all bridge that gap at Quasar Markets, and it's why we love to have different people on, and why we have you on every Monday and Wednesday at noon, because this is a different side of trading that you really need, that needs to be explored. And to be, if this is what you want to do with your life, if you want to be a trader, then you need to spend time and some money to get the best tools possible. You probably have the best, fastest computer. You've decided whether it's IKBR or TOS or whatever trading program, and maybe you're using one of those proprietary A1s, AI programs, A1,
Right.
AI programs for your trading, whatever it might be. You're investing that money. What I would say to you is, what I'm seeing is, number one, take advantage of what she has for you for free, but then be looking to that's what you want to do, taking care of your mental health is going to take care of your trading health.
Yeah.
And that's what Agnieszka offers you. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and spending your time with us, and for opening
Thank you
up
so
this
much.
program to our viewers first. So please take advantage of that. Get
Absolutely.
on that waiting list before it fills up. There's only 12 spots. So
Right.
please do that. And Agnieszka, you have a fantastic end to your week here, and we'll see you again on Monday at noon.
Thank you so much, Howard, for having me, and have a great day. Thank
You
everyone.
too.